Mr. Mullen, because I respect you so much. And honestly, you seem like an alpha kind of guy. You know, real machismo type of guy.
Yeah. Look at you, you non-humble bat. You're wearing Burberry shades on this podcast. What are you doing?
Do you think, Mr. Mullen, that men these days are, in general, pussified? Compare your generation growing up.
The far left is doing that. They want to feminize men.
Based.
Right. Yeah.
Damn, that was mad.
Well, obviously, Mr. Mullen's based.
Are you worried about society?
To do.
Are you worried about society, or do you think, like, you have a lot more wisdom than us? You've seen the ebb and flow of society. Are you worried about the current state of our society, or do you think that we're going to make a comeback?
There's always hope. I think my generation screwed it up. You know, there was the Vietnam War in the 70s and all of that. And a lot of that was righteous. I mean, there was anyone that reads the history, the Ellsberg papers, all of those things. They hid a lot of stuff. McNamara hid a lot of stuff from the people, and they knew they were going to lose the war and continued to fight it and shouldn't have been there. Started by a Democrat, Kennedy, who I like, but he did start it. And continued by LBJ, and then it goes on. Of course, they all hate Nixon for what he did, but at any rate, but that generation got into the colleges and the universities, and they created all the liberal stuff that's going on in the universities now. It's just insane. You know, used to be the whole idea of the universities was to speak your mind and to challenge you. It
was still like that for me in 2004 at UCLA. Yeah. It was still, they would give you the facts and you would make your own decision about what you.
Well, and they used to bring in my college days, they used to bring in people from different points of view, different political spectrums. And, you know, radicals one point of view, and then conservatives on the other, and speak, you know, and so it was a good thing.
That's healthy.
You know, it raised your consciousness. But now you can only speak one way without or you just get driven out of the world.
Right, exactly.
It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's scary.
Let's keep the
hope.
Even
in your guys' vein with comedy, you know, you see with Dave Chappelle, who I'm a great fan of, and you see what they did in just most recently, and I think it's Minneapolis, where they shut down his show. You know,
I couldn't believe it, man.
And unfortunately, another theater opened up for him. But to me, that's really, I mean, because comedy, there's always truth. That's what makes it funny. I mean, you know, that's what makes it funny. And he can say things I can't say nowadays. But if you go back and look at the old movies like Blazing Saddles and stuff, and, you know, back in the day, they had Archie Bunker. But the point was to
I love Archie Bunker.
But they used humor to make a point about race relations and what was going on and
what needed to change, of course.
Yeah, and what needed to change, and that's a good. And so humor leads the way in a lot of those societal things, and you know, it's unfortunate now. And you know, Dave Chappelle does edgy stuff, but it always has that element of truth in it, and that's what's good about it.
That was a beautiful note to go out on, I think.
That is. It's interesting how that works, but I mean, look, overall, I still think like the divorce rate in America is about 50%. I mean, that's what it's been for a long time.
Above 50%.
Above?
Yes, sir.
Really? So, but most of the people getting married young are from smaller towns. Like everybody from Turlock and the Modesto area that I went to college with, they're all married now. But I would still say like 80% of my dude friends, I mean, I'm 35, are still single. It's pretty wild.
And they're not gay, right?
They're all some of them are gay, King Croc.
Okay,
I do have.
Let's talk about
friends.
the straight ones. The straight ones. They're not married.
Yeah.
They're also not gay.
Yeah.
And this reaches the heart of what I wanted to talk about. And that's declining rates of marriage. Why? Because of society, because of feminism, because of the unjust and biased laws in our society that plague us, where men these days with high IQs like myself, why would they take that deal, buddy? Why? Well, why would I get into a contract
let me ask you
with the fucking government?
Let me ask you this, Danny and King Croc.
Let's keep it a buck, Dino. Like,
I get it. Okay, of course, that's one thing. But is there a point, Danny, when you think where
I'm sorry,
you go to
I can't.
parties.
Like when King Croc swats his mic away after making a point. I love it.
It's got to be your mic because it has that wobbly effect. No, but okay. So do you think there's a point where you go to a cocktail party and people whisper like, "Wow, he never had kids or never even tried to get married"? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like people will view you as a selfish person at a certain age if you don't attempt to get married or maybe have kids at some point. Isn't it kind of a selfish thing to do, just never to have kids?
Well, I think in LA, nobody would even bat an eye about you and I being unmarried at our age. In LA, I mean, it's been in New York City, it's been part of the culture for a long time for older men to play the field, to stay single. That's not a big deal. But also in a blue state, in a very blue city like Los Angeles, I mean, that's the exact type of people who aren't getting married anymore. Chicks are coming out of UC Berkeley, UC San Diego, and they're focusing on their careers instead of starting a family. And the only people who make me feel guilty now about not being in a committed marriage is the right, because that's something the right and conservatives have been talking about now, is how low our birth rate is. And a lot of that is because people are, they say selfishly, living their own lives instead of getting married. Leo,
and it's mainly the birth rate of people on the left. Like, if you actually look into it, the conservatives are out birthing Democrats, I think, like 3 or 4 to 1.
Yeah.
So if you're talking multi-generational politics, like, they're just going to win by virtue of having more babies.
Unless, of course, but parties do change. What if someday the Democrats are the ones, you know, I don't know what would bring you over to the Democratic side. What if one day, I don't know, Danny, what do you think would bring Austin to the left?
I don't have a good joke right now. What would bring Austin
If
to the
they
left?
became,
I don't know, dude. The
Yeah.
Democratic Party was the party that had slaves in bondage and used to draw political cartoons with black dudes with gigantic lips and shit, like slandering Abraham Lincoln. So, I mean, that party's pretty much completely inverted, or not, or all the shit they do now is just condescending and is basically just veiled racism. I'm not sure what it would take for Austin. Maybe if Trump came out as a Democrat.
He could take.
I mean, honestly, he's more like an old school Democrat than he is a conservative.
Aren't we all though? I mean, all of us would basically like agree with the shit that Bill Clinton was saying in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, first black president.
What he was saying, but not necessarily what he was doing.
And sucked? Yeah, I'm sure you're not into that, gay boy.
What do you think? So if we're